Hi guys, this is Katie and today I'm going to be answering your life in China frequently asked questions. So if we haven't met before, my name is Katie. Me and my husband live in Bangkok, Thailand, but we used to live in a place called Tianjin, which is just outside of Beijing in the north of China. So to give you a quick background, I qualified as a primary school teacher in the UK, and then I moved to China because I wanted an experience of working at an international school. So we lived in China to begin with, and now we live in Bangkok. We spent 2 years in China. We learned a lot, we traveled a lot, and I wanted to share with you my experience of living in China. So over the last 2 years, I've received a lot of questions from you guys about what it was like to live in China, what it was like to travel China. So today I thought I'd answer all of those life in China FAQs. So let's jump right in. So my first question is, did you learn Mandarin and is it hard to learn? So my simple answer to that is no, we didn't learn Chinese much at all. We learned some really basic Chinese using the Chinese Skill app, and it's a really nice little app actually, especially if you are traveling with family to China. It has a little character that makes you practice different Chinese words. So we learned really basic Chinese like hello, goodbye, thank you, how much, too spicy, yes we want rice for that please. So yeah, we learned some really basic Chinese which helped us when we traveled China, and it definitely helped us when we lived in China. In hindsight, I probably would have learned a little bit more Chinese because we lived in Tianjin. Apart from the people we worked with, the majority of other people in Tianjin did not speak that much English at all. I think it would have been better for us if we'd learned a little bit more. But if you can try and say the basics in Chinese, then it does really help, especially if you're traveling China for like an extended period of time. So my next question was, what is the hardest part about living in China? So I think everyone's response to this will probably be slightly different. For us, we lived in north of China, so in the winter it got bitterly cold. It was minus 15 degrees. To be honest, I didn't mind it as much. I do enjoy the seasons, and we just made sure that we had a big thick coat that we could wrap up in. However, when it did get cold in China, especially if you are in a city that's north of Shanghai, the government control the heating. So automatically from November to March, the heating goes on in your apartment, which meant it was really strange because outside it was freezing, but inside your apartment it was always boiling, and we ended up having our air conditioning on more in the winter than we did in the summer. So that kind of frustrated me. It wasn't the worst thing about living in China, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because when all of those cities put on their heating for all of the buildings in their city, the pollution gets so much worse. So typically speaking, pollution should be under 50 AQI to be in a healthy bracket. In Tianjin, the pollution was very rarely under 150. But when it came to the winter, it did get really bad. Like it was about 300 AQI, which made it really difficult to breathe when you're outside. Me and my husband Callum ended up just kind of staying inside a lot of the winter time unless the pollution was low, because we really enjoy going for long walks and just kind of wandering around. We couldn't do that when the pollution was bad. So for me, that was the hardest part about living in China, was not being able to go out all the time when the pollution was bad. So AJ asked, whereabouts in China did you live and was it easy to commute around the country? Okay, so like I said, we lived in a place called Tianjin. It's literally a half-an-hour bullet train from Beijing. And for me, I used to work in a school that was like a 5-10 minute drive from where I lived. We use the Didi app all the time. So Didi is the Chinese version of Uber. I would definitely recommend it if you are thinking of traveling to China or living in China. But yeah, we use that to order our taxis all the time. It really helped with the language barrier because lots of the places in that app are written in English as well. So that was how I commuted to and from school. But when it comes to kind of commuting around the country, generally speaking, they have fast trains around the whole country. They have these bullet trains that will take you from one city to another. These are really easy ways to travel China. So you can actually pick up a train ticket when you get to the train station, but you can also book your ticket online at Ctrip, which I would definitely recommend if you are traveling China and you want to book everything in advance. Go onto Ctrip and book your train ticket. But once you get to the train station, everything is labelled. There's lots of signs written in English, and it's probably the easiest way to get around the country. Another option, of course, is flying. China is a massive country. You will want to just take some flights sometimes to cut down on time. Airports generally are pretty easy to navigate. They all look the same in China. They all have a really similar design. And again, a lot of things have English translation, so it's really not too hard to commute around the country at all. So leading on from that, a similar question, what is the best way to travel around China? So for me, I really enjoy flying just because it's quick and it's easy. If we're flying from one side of the country to another, we definitely just jump on a flight. If you book your tickets in advance, especially if you're not traveling during a Chinese holiday, you'll be able to get some really decently priced flights. So my next question is China a good option for solo and women travelers? I guess this is a kind of hard one to answer because we travel as a couple, but I would definitely say that China is a great place for women and solo travelers to explore. It is incredibly safe. The amount of times we would go to a cafe and we would see people leave their laptop and phone and everything on their tables, go to the bathroom and then come back. Not one person has looked at it, nothing's been taken. It's a really safe place to live. You've got to remember with China that there are really strict laws, so generally speaking people don't break the laws, so it's a really safe place to visit. When it comes to solo travel, there are hostels in some of the major cities around China, but the hotels and the chain hotels in China are incredibly cheap as well. So another question I was asked was, have you visited any of the European Chinese villages? What is the best one? So some of you might be aware that China have created these fake European cities around the country. A lot of them are just outside of Shanghai. They were created in a way to kind of disperse the crowds that were living in Shanghai. They were meant to be kind of residential areas. They haven't really done that well, but you can still go and visit them. We actually visited Thames Town, not too far from Shanghai, and we also visited a fake Paris, which is near Hangzhou. We really enjoyed them. It's very surreal because the places are really quiet, but they have lots of iconic statues. My favorite one has to be the Paris city. They have an actual Eiffel Tower in the middle of the city centre. They have rows and rows of French style houses as well. I thought it was beautiful, and for me it was really strange because it was empty. The only people that were there were people that lived in the houses that were around, so it was really surreal because you were visiting the Eiffel Tower and there was no one around, and there are people riding their motorbikes underneath it. Yeah, that was my favourite one because it was just so surreal and so random. So another question we had was, what was the food like? Now where we were in Tianjin, the food was really varied because Tianjin is a city where lots of people immigrated to Tianjin many years ago, so there was lots of different flavours from all around China in that city. Of course it's not the same as Chinese food that you are used to in the West. There are some dishes that are a lot more saltier, they're a lot more sour, sometimes even a little bit too sweet. It really does depend on what you're getting. I really enjoyed some of the noodle dishes, like the chow mein dishes that you could get there. I really enjoyed lamb skewers, they were great. I also really enjoyed the dumplings. The dumplings are amazing. I actually really love the Cantonese food there.
Fish porridge.
What do you call that in Chinese?
So because the fish is not cooked, it's a raw sliced fish. They just put on the bottom of the
So of course the food was different to what you expected, but if you love trying food, then I would definitely recommend trying as much food as you can if you're traveling or living in China. It was definitely a positive part of living in China, was being able to try all of the different types of food. So someone asked what were our preparations for moving to China. For me, my school kind of took care of the majority of stuff. We had to get ourselves a Chinese visa. To be able to do that in England, we actually went to a Chinese visa centre in London. We gave in all of our paperwork that our school had helped us complete, and then we had to come back to the Chinese embassy for an interview. To be honest, it wasn't really an interview. They took a photo of us and scanned our fingers, and that was it. And then 2 or 3 days later, we got our Chinese visa. I was lucky because I worked for a school that sorted all of that stuff out for me. One part of getting your Chinese visa, however, is that you have to do a health check. So you have to go to a hospital and get blood tests and x-rays, but that is a part of getting your Chinese visa. Apart from that, we stocked up on clothes because we were aware that you can't really get Western sizes in Asia. So we bought plenty of clothes. I bought plenty of things like makeup and contact lenses, all of those essential things that I needed day to day. I made sure I had like a year's year's worth, so that all I have to do is the following year in the summer, when I went home for the summer, I would just have to stock up. So that's how we prepared to move to China. Okay, so my last question, where is the best place you have visited in China? For me, it has to be Pingyang Village. Pingyang Village is a gorgeous little village that overlooks the rice terraces. It is down near Guangzhou and Guilin. It is absolutely stunning. I would definitely recommend it if you can stay a night or two in Pingyang Village itself. It is so beautiful. It is so unique. It is just gorgeous. It really is. I would definitely recommend, if you are in China, make sure you head down south and check out the Longji rice terraces. They are amazing. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you have any more questions about life in China or even life in Bangkok, please make sure you leave them in the comments below. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I shall see you very soon. Stay creative.